Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex, co-host Anthony right here. We went to the Giants game today, my friends. We sat through pain, misery, the energy being sucked out of the stadium. Sitting there hearing nothing but silence when we were on defense, which is not a good sign for a team when your fans are quiet during a defensive series. You want to be distracting the opposition as much as possible. And losing to a Falcons team is pretty eye-opening, right? It's eye-opening in the sense that if the Giants decided to tear the whole thing down right now, would it actually make the team any worse? You know what I mean? Losing to a Falcons team that came into this game allowing 40 points per game on average and having thrown 2 pick sixes last week against Tampa Bay, whose defense has been really bad this year so far. The Giants losing to this team is a big wake-up call that if they tore the whole thing down tomorrow, if they fired the whole coaching staff, it probably couldn't get much worse, guys. And that's a big, big problem we have to talk about, we have to face, and some players that are regressing at a rate that we simply cannot sustain moving forward. Anthony, how are you feeling emotionally inside about this game? I know the journey back gave us a lot of time to think and digest these emotions, but it was tough, man.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little dead inside. This was a really disappointing loss. Of course, we were really confident going into this game, not because of our team, but because of the situation surrounding this game. Because we were confident that we were going up against a crappy opponent in the Atlanta Falcons, who are allowing an average of 40 points per game defensively going into this game, and we only scored 17 points against them. And of course, the other situation, the big talking point all week long, Eli Manning's jersey retirement, his induction into the Giants Ring of Honor. We could not lose that game. We had to win for Eli. Well, the Giants failed to win for Eli. It was kind of heartbreaking in that sense. And if there's really one moment of today that kind of is the epitome of what happened, it's really John Mara goes out there to speak about Eli Manning at halftime, and the fans are booing him. Everyone's booing him. We're all fed up with this team. How were they losing at halftime against that team? That's just inexcusable to be at that situation in that point of the game. Then, of course, they went on to lose the game. So John Mara kicking over trash cans, throwing temper tantrums in the press box. I understand how he feels, but also he is the man that we need to hold accountable. He has done a horrible job running this football team over the past decade or so. And enough is enough, right? Giants fans were all fed up. Today was kind of the icing on the cake. We've had a really tough time for years now, and this is kind of a breaking point, I feel like, for a lot of fans.
I would agree. I mean, look, when you have your owner come out to speak about Eli Manning, and this is about Eli, right? And they're still booing him off the stadium. Eli had to literally try to quiet people down. We were there. He was trying to quiet people down as Mara got booed the second he stepped on the stage. He just seems like he's hiring his buddies at this point, right? Seems like he's going out, Dave Gettleman, you're around my age. You're from the prehistoric era. Why not bring you in? We'll hang out, have some drinks, have some food, enjoy the process. I'll be involved, we'll have a good time. But the one thing I think John Mara, left out in this entire equation was the actual feeling of winning and how much better it is than hanging out with Dave Gettleman. You know what I mean? I don't really get it anymore. Jason Garrett seems like a nepotism-led hire as well. He's a guy that started with the Giants, played with the Giants. Now he's back with the Giants. We have one of the worst offenses in the league once again. Look, we have 4 total touchdowns this year through 3 games, okay? I can name 3 quarterbacks today that had that many touchdowns all by themselves, including Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford. Those 2 alone had 4 touchdowns by themselves, okay? This is an offense that is run by a quarterback in Daniel Jones that has had a pretty good start to the year. Look, he hasn't thrown an interception yet, right? No interceptions through 3 games, but that is also an indictment on the fact that the Giants aren't taking risks, okay? That's how I see it. I see, okay, Daniel Jones hasn't thrown any interceptions. Whoopee. We still freaking suck. And it's because we can't freaking score, right? And the second that Darius Slayton goes off the field, he leaves with an injury. Sterling Shepard leaves with an injury. That doesn't mean our offense has to stop dead in the water. Saquon was fine. Evan Engram, who we're going to talk about in a bit, who I absolutely despise to the end of the planet, was fine. And, you still have different play calls. Kenny Golladay still on the field as well. You have play calls that Jason Garrett simply didn't use, that he used against Washington. What happened to the read option? What happened to the RPOs? What happened to we saw them install a portion of the game of the playbook that was working. We were like, okay, of course, maybe the thought that crossed your mind and what crossed my mind was that, okay, they obviously were trying to install another portion, element to the offense, and this is what we'll see more regularly moving forward. They completely took it out of the playbook again. And I don't understand like why it is that we have to regress every week after making some progress, after showing some momentum, and then Joe Judge coming after the game saying, we're gonna be all right, guys. I'm tired of hearing the bullshit. I'm tired of hearing the unwarranted optimism. I'm a positive guy. You guys know this. I try to be positive, but at the end of the day, wins speak louder than words. And we haven't seen any wins. Anthony was just showing me a statistic that Giants and Jets are 0-6 together. They're the bottom of the league right now. The Giants have two top 10 picks, thanks to the Bears, who also got blown out today by the Browns. This is a team in disarray, Anthony. When you're looking at it, who is at fault? Is it Mara at the top? Is it from the top down? Is it Gettleman that needs to go? We need to get a nice modernized young coach, young GM in here who understands that we should not be paying Saquon Barkley $20 million per year because he is not impacting the game like he used to and really will ever impact. He probably will never make the impact that you need him to unless we have a stout offensive line, right? Offensive line, I would rather have two bookend tackles than Saquon Barkley in terms of allocating funds. I'd rather go out and sign a big right tackle and have Andrew Thomas and a good right tackle instead of having Saquon Barkley because it's about the quarterback. It's not about the running back. You can have any running back in there. Wayne Gallman last year, remember? He looked better than Saquon has so far this year, and he's on freaking the practice squad of the Falcons. He's not even playing on the Falcons right now. You know what I mean? So give me the offensive lineman. It's a mess. The guards are a mess. Nate Solder is a turnstile, man. We saw him get his ass whooped all day against a bad Falcons defense, Anthony. So who do you think is to blame here? Because I'm at a loss of words, to be honest.
It's top to bottom. Of course, I think that John Mara is the number one guy that you have to blame. Steve Tisch is a co-owner. I know he's really not that involved. Maybe he should get more involved. Maybe he should hire somebody to get more involved because clearly it's just not working from top to bottom. So John Mara is the problem. Dave Gettleman's also a problem. You can go back over a list of acquisitions that he's made over the past 3 years and say that was horrible, that was horrible, that was horrible. And a lot of those, you could have said that before they even stepped on the field. You already knew that wasn't going to pan out, that wasn't going to work out. And still he did them anyway, and that's his job. It's not our job to critique and say, well, it's our job to critique, but it's not our job to say who they should and shouldn't sign because we don't play with John Mara's money. But Dave Gettleman does, and he gets paid to do that. So he should know what he's doing is right and what he's doing is wrong. It's
crazy to me that Dave Gettleman gets paid for this.
I know. And then
I thought it was a freebie.
Keep going down the list, though. We can jump into the coaching staff and we can talk about Jason Garrett being as bad as he is. Understood. He is bad. Joe Judge deserves a lot of blame for this, for the start to the season being 0-3. He talked a big game all off season long. He discussed how this is a disciplined, hardworking team, how they pay attention to the details. If they pay so much attention to the details, Alex, tell me why today after the game, why did Daniel Jones say, well, I don't think it's one major problem. I think it's plenty of small details that cause us to keep losing. That's what Daniel Jones said. And it was Joe Judge who promised. Joe Judge promised that all of those small details are what they would have ironed out. That was his whole MO, his whole mantra heading into New York. And then we can go over specific things with Joe Judge as well that he's failed on. I understand. I'm the leader of the Joe Judge fan club. I carry a gavel around in my videos because it's fun. And I really liked the guy when he got here. I'm starting to feel very uneasy about Joe Judge. I don't think I'm the leader of that fan club anymore. I think I have to run away from that title because, man, when you have a situation where it's 4th and 3, and you could go for it. You could go for it, right? And you're in the opponent's territory. Or you could kick a 56-yard field goal. Which one would you rather do? Go for it or kick the field goal? Well, Joe Judge did neither one. He punted the ball. It was a mind-boggling decision, and he does that frequently. There's been multiple opportunities to have even a slight sign of aggression, and he's completely conservative, and it comes back to haunt us. That play right there was kind of a defining moment. When it happened, I was sitting in the seats. I looked at Alex. I was like, that's going to come back to bite us. That was not a good decision. Lo and behold, it was a horrible decision. We all knew it would be. Everybody in the stadium was just like, why are we punting the ball here? There's just zero aggression. It's such a conservative team, conservative offense. And that's another thing that I want to hit on. You mentioned Kenny Golladay briefly. I think that Kenny Golladay played a pretty good game, especially considering that he is a little hobbled up. They didn't target him enough, I don't think. But also, think about his routes and the catches that he made. I don't think he had a single target deep downfield. I don't think at any time Daniel Jones looked and said, go deep, let me throw it to you. That never happened. Now, who's that on? Is that on Kenny Galladay's health? Is that on Daniel Jones not making that decision? Or is it ultimately on Jason Garrett not putting that as a focal point of the offense to get Kenny Golladay vertical? Well, I place that on Jason Garrett, but I also place that on Joe Judge for continuing to install this conservative mantra and conservative mindset in the New York Giants. So you ask me what's the problem? There are so many problems. There's not one big problem, as Daniel Jones said, but there are so many big problems that I can't really pinpoint how to solve this or what the exact root of the problem is. But John Mara, you can hear us. You can hear that the fan base is really pissed off and upset with you. It's time to make some action, do something, because this cannot continue.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, when you're looking at the schemes around the NFL, you're looking at other teams, what they're doing. If I were to ask you right now, what is Deshaun Jackson's top attribute? What does Deshaun Jackson do? He is a go route deep threat. That is all he is known for. So defenses, when they're on the field, know what he's going to run. They know he's running deep every route. But for whatever reason, Tampa Bay couldn't stop him today. He still had a 75-yard touchdown catch, right? So why is it that the Giants are only willing to send specific guys downfield? Like Darius Slayton is their 9-route guy. Kenny Golladay should be their big possession receiver. Give him some chances. Today, the only shot that they took 20-plus yards downfield, I think there was 2 of them. One of them was to CJ freaking Board, and the other one was to Colin Johnson, who Daniel Jones threw it way over his head out of bounds. It was a terrible throw. And I will say it was really, really windy in the stadium, so that ball could have definitely gotten picked up by the wind. But I will say the fact that we're only taking risks with CJ Board and Colin Johnson is a big fundamental schematic issue. And that is where I draw the line with Jason Garrett and his dumb ass, because I physically do not understand if you want to run the running, if you want to get involved in the running game, if it's a windy day at MetLife, you want to keep the ball on the ground, run your read options, run your RPOs, get your running back involved, use the screen game to those short dump off passes. They started to do the screen game at the end of the game, and it was working. They were moving the ball downfield, and I was saying to Anthony, I was like, why don't we just run screens this entire time? Kadarius Toney, there was a third down. There was a 3rd down and 1. I'm like, throw a bubble screen to Kadarius Toney right now. Instead, they run an outside zone. Oh, sorry, it was a sweep play to Saquon Barkley, who got stopped behind the line of scrimmage. And I'm sitting there like, just run. But they're playing off-man coverage. Kadarius Toney missed that. His job, his entire like persona is making guys miss in the open field. I thought Kadarius Toney played a good game. When he had the ball in his hands, he was making guys miss. He was doing good things. And I sat there saying to myself for a second, why wasn't he involved the first 2 weeks? And I know I heard he had a really great week of practice, right? But that doesn't mean anything to me, man. Like, he should be, why isn't every week a good week of practice? Like, I don't get what this whole concept is of having a good week of practice, man. Like, David Tyree had a shit week of practice the game before the Super Bowl, and bam, suddenly he makes one of the biggest catches in history. I don't give a crap about practice.
You know who had a good week in practice? Evan Engram, but he still fumbled the ball.
Bro, Evan Engram, that's another thing. The guy can't, he's a plague. He is a plague on us, bro. He is the 8th plague. Like locusts, fire, Evan Engram. That is what he is. He's like in the freaking Bible for being an absolute menace to society. I don't understand where he comes into play here. Every time he's on the field, something bad happens. You know, I'm tired of it. Like his first debut, like, your calf is injured, bro. Your calf, not your arm. Like, why are you fumbling? You have no idea how big of a problem that is when you're fumbling, giving them great field position to go and score on us. Like, he is the direct reason for issues over and over. Play Caden Smith. Trade Evan Ingram's ass. Trade him now.
Caden Smith had a nice reception, too.
Caden Smith is a good player, and they refuse to use him. If you had a player, if Sean McVay had a player, and he was a good player, blocked pretty well. We've seen him have some nice blocking situations, and he was a good receiver. He got open, did his job. Sean McVay would find the way to get him the ball, like he did with Higbee today, or Cooper Kupp, who everybody knows he's going to target 50% of his targets of Matthew Stafford's throws are going to go to Cooper Kupp, but they still can't stop him because the scheme is so good. Daniel Jones would be a franchise quarterback in Sean McVay's scheme. He would build a scheme that works for him. Jason Garrett is over here running Norv Turner's offense from 2004, trying to use Saquon Barkley like a power back and trying to use Kenny Golladay like Dez Bryant, but he's not even using him. If we used Kenny Golladay like Dez Bryant, I would be over the moon. okay? Because Des Bryant, they used to push downfield, let him use his big frame, and use him the right way. They're using Kenny Golladay on slants. They're using him on very, very short route concepts. They need to push him vertical. Exactly. They need to push him vertically. And what do you think about Evan Engram? Like, it's now, I think you trade his ass, because at this point, I'm done with the fumbles. I'm done with the freaking interceptions. I'm done with the drops. The guy is a plague on this team. Like, it's just
Yeah, I'll repeat what I said on Twitter about Evan Engram. I think that it is time to move on from Evan Engram because I think it's best for both parties. Now, I'm a fan that believes that Evan Engram is a good player, a decent player that can be a very good player in the right offensive scheme with the right quarterback. Everything around him could be proper, and Evan Engram still has the potential to be a good player. I think he's good. I like him, even though he gets hurt sometimes, and I know the turnover problems, but at this point, his reputation amongst fans, as you can tell, with Alex calling him a plague,
people cheering him when he walks on the field.
Horrible. We were at the game. He was on the field. We boo. He walks off the field. We cheer. It was ridiculous.
It was crazy.
I wasn't necessarily involved in that, but there were.
It was happening.
The stadium was. That's what the stadium was doing. The fans in that stadium were cheering when he was walking off the field. No one wants to watch him play in a Giants uniform anymore. He is just not cutting it for what the fan base wants, and he's always involved in the bad plays like that fumble, or if you think back to last year, drops, interceptions that were targeting him. There's plenty of plays where Evan Engram is out there and they just go south because of Evan Engram, and Giants fans are honestly fed up with that. They're fed up with everything, but he's kind of become the punching bag. So Giants fans, we punch him. And so I think that it's best for both parties, for the Giants to just go with a new tight end who the fans like, and then also best for Evan Engram, get out of New York while you can. Everybody here literally hates you. I hate to say that. It's sad. I feel bad for Evan Engram. I think he's a really nice guy, but it's sad. Everybody here hates him.
You're not paid to be a nice guy, man.
You're not.
I would be paying multi-million dollars. I'm a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. He's a very nice guy.
I'm a nice guy, but I can't catch a football, so I'm not getting paid. You know, that's the point, right?
That's the point.
Look, Evan Engram.
But he can find success on another team, though. If another team, you're even mentioning it, right? Sean McVay. Say a player or say a team like the Rams were to trade for Evan Engram. Evan Engram could be a superstar on the Rams. He really could be. But he's never going to be that in New York. And Giants fans, at this point, they don't even want to see him become that in New York. They just want to see him out of here. So I think it's best for both parties. The Giants should start looking into trading Evan Engram immediately.
Yeah, I mean, look, Evan, if you're listening, great guy, awesome human being, big fan of your personality, but you freaking suck. And that's the thing, is like, if you're an NFL athlete and you're getting paid $6, $10, $15 million to do your job and you're not doing it at a high enough level, you deserve criticism. Because the rest of us who are not making all that money to catch a ball and not fumble that ball get to make fun of you for doing those things, because that is literally why you exist. You exist because we get to judge you. And that's why football exists, for the fans. You know, if there was no fans, football would never be a thing. So Evan Engram, it's time for him to move on, and it's time for the Giants to realize that he has done more bad to this team than good, right? That at the end of the day, you evaluate every single player. What player has done more bad to this team than good? And then you decide, do we move on from them or not? Right now, let me categorize the ones that are doing more bad than good. Nate Solder, a lot more bad than good. A lot more. Evan Engram, a lot more bad than good. I mean, and look, the bad can be categorized as different ways. You could say maybe you're not available because of injury or you're just not playing well. I would say Saquon Barkley has done a lot more bad than good just because he hasn't been on the field. It doesn't mean he's not a good player. It just means he's had a lot of injuries, a lot of issues. So, that the value that you're supposed to get from the second overall pick just hasn't been there because he hasn't been on the field. And I think that you can agree with that. It's not about him or his personality. He's a great guy and he's a great player when he's available. Who else? I mean, on defense, James Bradbury's had a terrible start to the year, right?
He's definitely what did he do? More bad than good.
What, four receptions, 60 yards he allowed today?
Yeah, he allowed over 60 yards in coverage once again. I know that PFF said his grade is going to be below 50 again. He was really, really poor in coverage. I believe it was over 4 receptions and over 60 yards. He's just not showing up like he used to. I think he had one pass breakup, but everything else that was thrown his way pretty much was caught. And if it wasn't caught, it wasn't because of him. It was because either the receiver or quarterback missed on it. So Bradbury's kind of looking lost out there. There were a lot of people who said they thought he might regress after a great season last year.
Did.
I don't think anyone expected him to regress this much, because last year he was phenomenal. He was a top 5 quarterback in the league. Those seasons usually are not sustainable anyway. You can't have those consistently. But I thought maybe he'd drop to top 10, top 15. He looks like a top 30 cornerback in the league right now. He is playing so poorly, like pretty much everybody else on this defense. And then, of course, we also lost Blake Martinez, had a few key injuries today. Lost Blake Martinez, lost Sterling Shepard, lost Darius Slayton. Really a bad day all around for the New York Giants. Injuries, defensive struggles, offensive struggles, special team struggles. Riley Dixon kicked a punt into the end zone that he absolutely needed to keep in the field of play. All around, just a really bad day for the Giants.
Yeah, and that one play haunting me right now is at the end of the game, that last drive to get into field goal position. The first play of the drive rather, was a fake screen to the right side, goes back across to Cordarrelle Patterson. Nobody's there. Nobody's covering him.
A great play
call. It's a great play call. Every time Cordarrelle Patterson is on the field, 75% of the time he's on the field, he's touching the ball. There has to be somebody on him at all times. All time. He's playing running back. He's playing receiver. He's your kick returner. He is their player, man. I picked him up in fantasy football. I'm going to start him now because they run the whole offense through the guy. But the thing that really pissed me off the most is that aside from the mental mistakes and the lack of schematics, was the defenses failing to convert on turnovers. We had 2 dropped interceptions today. Three. Logan Ryan had one. I think he had 2, actually.
Logan Ryan had 2.
He had 2. And then Adoree Jackson straight up dropped a red zone interception, brutal. Right? A red zone interception. He dropped it. That would have been the game. If he gets that, the Giants win the game. Yep. That's football, though. You got to make those plays. We are paying you $39 million over 3 years. You got to make those plays, man. If you're a number 1 corner, if you're a world-class athlete, catch a football that is floating to you at 2 miles an hour that 90% of the fans that are talking shit about the team in the stadium could probably catch. And you have gloves on. They're freaking glue on these gloves, man. It's like...
that was uncontested.
Uncontested, man. Like, he could have taken that for 6. There was nobody even there. What we've done to ourselves is far more than what any other team has done to us. That is the best way to put the Giants season so far. Yep. We have hurt ourselves way more than any other team has done to beat us, right? That's the reality. That's the reality of this, guys. Do you have anything else to say? Because
I think that's the perfect way to really wrap things up, because when you look at the Giants, they are shooting themselves in the foot. Every time we're in a good situation, there were a couple times the Giants were moving the ball, and then it's like a 3rd and medium. And they go up there, delay of game, false start, holding,
timeouts
like
for no reason.
Timeouts because
Joe Judge used all his timeouts.
Dude, the Giants' clock management today was horrible.
Bad.
Their attention to details, horrible. This was a Joe Judge loss, in my opinion. I think that he really did cost the team in this one in the worst way possible, and is the reason that the Giants came away with a big fat L. So if there is one person that I want to place this specific loss on, it's Joe Judge. And probably if I wanted to place it on someone last week, it was Joe Judge. So I don't like this pattern, especially because I did proclaim myself as the leader of the Joe Judge fan club. I'm not sitting in a comfortable spot right now, and I'm really not enjoying watching Giants football. It's been a real struggle.
And he didn't make a lot of these, mistakes last year, which was really odd to me. He had some, mistakes every now and then, some mishaps, but this has been consistently bad, and it's multiple times a game, mind you. Maybe one bad decision last year a game, one thing that was like, okay, maybe I don't agree with that, or maybe that 2-point conversion or that 4th down punt or whatever. But these past 3 games, it's every game that I'm like, I don't think I would have done that. I think I would have went for it there. I think I would have taken a punt, given Graham Gano an opportunity. A 56-yard field goal, it's far, but give him an opportunity. Go for it on 4th and 1, or just be more aggressive. And using the timeouts is inexcusable, man. You can't be using timeouts in the middle of the 3rd quarter when this game is close, and it's going to be close, and you're going to need it. He does. I don't think
it was a dumb challenge. Whatever he challenged.
In the beginning, he challenged that the guy that caught the ball. I think it might have been Calvin Ridley in the beginning. He challenged that he fumbled the ball, but it was just an incompletion.
Right, yeah.
And he wanted to get better field position, but instead he lost a timeout, and they got backed up in the 5-yard line. So
yeah, how about when they're backed up in their own 5-yard line? It was about to be a delay of game. They would have lost 1.5 yards from a delay of game. He calls a timeout instead. Why not just lose the 1.5 yards? That's not going to damn your season or damn your game. But losing a timeout could damn your game. He threw it really
fast too. He didn't even consider the fact that maybe he had a couple seconds for them to like look at the play, up in the booth or something and relay information to him. But he threw that so fast. I think he just makes a lot of gut decisions that don't make sense. He's not using analytics. He's not listening to people.
He's a little too emotional.
He's emotional, and he makes decisions on a whim, just without even hesitating. He'll just throw the flag. He'll call a timeout, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what are you doing, man? We need those timeouts, or we need that challenge, or just things like that just don't make a lot of sense. Oh, let's punt it." Like he just does things like instinctually, and so far it hasn't worked. Maybe one day it will, but 3 consecutive losses with a lot of mistakes on Joe Judge's shoulders, definitely not a good sign for us moving forward. But guys, of course, we're gonna keep grinding out content, getting you guys everything you need. It's gonna be a long season, most likely, but let's try to be a little positive. I saw some good stuff today. Colin Johnson, reserve receiver, came on, had 50 yards or so, looked really good. Daniel Jones played a clean game, didn't make a lot of mistakes. That's a big positive. Saquon Barkley hit a couple holes. He was grinding out some yards. That was also a good positive. Andrew Thomas had another fantastic performance. Didn't give up many pressures. So you got that left tackle situation kind of solved for the most part. I really like that. Azeez Ojulari had a sack and a fumble on that sack, which Lorenzo Carter ended up picking up. So Azeez Ojulari's strong start to his rookie season with 3 consecutive sacks in consecutive games. So far, I'm happy with individual performances, but you got to play as a team. Coaching staff needs to do better. And I think for the most part, Joe Judge needs to be a lot better. So that's our main takeaway from this. Hopefully we'll get a win next week, and I know it's going to be a tough one, but we'll do our best. And let's also give a quick prayer up to those injured guys. Hopefully it's not too significant. Blake, I know he has a knee issue. I know Hammy for Sterling Shepard. I think Slayton also had a hamstring. I'm not entirely sure. So we'll keep you guys updated on any injury reports as well as always. But make sure to subscribe below on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And we'll catch you guys on the next New York Giants video.